I was on a book buying ban, technically, for like over a month, maybe even 2 months, which is for me like a ton, kind of. Maybe I have a problem. Yep, that could be. Anyway, I wanted to show you guys the books that I've bought ever since my book buying ban lifted, which actually, now that I think of it, is only like 3 weeks ago. So that's maybe alarming. I don't know. There's a lot, but anyways, this is like my real vice. This is my real vice, and you know what? I'm comfortable with that. That's okay with me, because I could easily have, me personally, the person I am, I could have way worse vices. So this is all right. You know, I could easily be addicted to cigarettes, you know? So first up is the paperback edition of Emily Wilson's Iliad translation. I was very excited about this when it came out last year, but it was of course in hardcover, and I am not a hardcover truther. I find them very uncomfortable to read, and just like, I just don't like them. So I was waiting for this to come out in paperback, and it did. And so I just like immediately wrapped it up. I've never read the Iliad like front to cover to cover. I haven't read the whole thing. I was supposed to technically once in university, but I didn't. Like, I only read a bit. I do also have the Robert Fagles translation, which is like one of the more popular, like current translations, I guess. I do have a copy of that, but I don't know, the idea of reading it translated through the eyes of a woman it's just enticing. It's very enticing. So I am looking forward to this. Also, I think this is really well received. From what I've heard, people love her translation. So just excited to do that. I'm actually currently reading it, but I'm reading it like a book at a time. Otherwise, I'll just get super bored, I think, unfortunately. It's just going to take me a while. But yeah, the Iliad. Next up is Solaris by Stanislaw Lem. I know that's not how you pronounce his name. I met a Polish person recently who told me how to pronounce it, but now I forgot. Anyways, I'm actually almost done with this book. I bought it and I like immediately started reading it, and I pretty much like binge read, well, not the entire thing obviously, but like the first half of it in like one day. I was supposed to do other things, but it just has me in its grip. This is such an interesting concept. So basically the idea is that there is this planet called Solaris that is sort of discovered, I guess, in this sort of future world. So imagine a world in which we've discovered a planet very far outside of our own solar system, I guess. And the planet is like very mysterious because it's completely covered in what they call an ocean, but it's not like ocean like water. There's no oxygen on the planet. So it's like this weird plasma liquid adjacent thing, but it covers the entire planet. And there's no conditions for life to have evolved, but scientists have decently serious reasons to think that the ocean thing on the planet is alive in a way or another. They have reasons to believe, because they believe that it kind of acts like it's kind of hard to explain, but just imagine that the ocean is some kind of creature of sorts, but nothing like we would guess that, you know, could be. Like, it's just like completely mysterious. It has very strange properties. It reacts to stimuli in just like unexpected and very sporadic ways. Like sometimes it reacts in a particular way, sometimes it doesn't react, sometimes it reacts to the same materials in different ways. So it's just completely like impossible to crack. What is this thing? How did it come to be? All this kind of stuff. So what you're following is this guy called Kelvin who arrives at a space station on Solaris. I actually don't know why he's there, but he just arrived, and there's supposed to be 3 other scientists like working, doing research on the ocean on Solaris. And when he arrives, things are just really weird immediately. Like, you're immediately in. And also, if you're interested in, I guess, the philosophy of science a bit, or like epistemology or things like that, this is really interesting because it actually details a lot of like the academic history of Solaris, of like the kind of research that was done in the early days, and then the kind of theories that scientists came up with, and how big a body of knowledge they have produced, but to no end really, because every time they think they understand something about it, like that expectation is kind of thrown and like thwarted. So it has that, which I think some people struggle with, but in the sense that it might be a bit boring, that part, but I feel like it's not, like, at all. Like, I was completely gripped. Like, if you think the concept of a planet like this is interesting to you, I think you'll enjoy reading. Like, there is stuff going on. There's like a plot. There's like something that's keeping you there. There's a tension there. I can't breathe with these pants on. There's like, you want to know, like, what is this ocean? Like, what is it alive? Does it know? Does it have consciousness? Like, we're just kind of trying to like figure out, and that, of course, that like curiosity and like there's some weird stuff going on the space station. I won't say much, but there's like these visitors that keep like materializing, and you're like, what in the fuck? Where did they come from? What is going on? So there's like actually a story, and it's kind of spooky even, because there's like these humanoids that like appear on the space station, and you're just like, what is this? Like, it just feels, you know, scary. You must imagine that this, like, the discovery of Solaris and the ocean has just kind of like revolutionized science on Earth. There's like a ton of knowledge about the planet, not knowledge, speculation and like research, and there's like been a lot of expeditions, and there's just like, it's so interesting because it's so detailed when it comes to that, like the details of the planet and how it works, like in like a physics way, which is potentially boring, except it's totally not boring. It's like super gripping, and it feels real. Like, it feels like this is real. This is a real planet. There was so much real research done on it, and you're just like, what is this planet? Like, you're just trying to figure it out. Anyways, I've been trying to read more speculative fiction lately, especially because I want to do a video about speculative fiction that dares to speculate. It's like my favorite genre, if that can be called a genre. But yeah, super enjoying this. Almost done, a couple pages away. I'm gonna finish this after this video. Next, I got myself a copy of Spinoza's Ethics, because I go to university that is pretty obsessed with Spinoza. I study in the Netherlands, so Spinoza, you know, Dutch man. This is a Spinoza obsessed country, I would say. I haven't read Spinoza myself. I've encountered him, of course, in my studies, but maybe that's not enough. Of course, there's actually a couple philosophers that you would think I would have, but I've never. I have encountered Spinoza. I love his cosmology. I love his metaphysic, you know, super slay, but I've never actually read him by myself. So I was like, let me get this. Let me get up to speed with what everybody is talking about right now at school. I also got, let me just get the philosophy out of the way. I also got this, which I've been looking for a while, not specifically this, but something along these lines. This is called The Logic Manual by Volker Halbach by Oxford University Press. And it's like a pretty short book that is meant to be like introductory to logic for philosophy students, because I have been taking a course on metaphysics. I think I talked about this. Did I talk about this? I don't remember. And it presupposes so much logic that I'm like not well versed in at all. Like, I actually don't know anything. All I've done is like basic regular logic, like not even like philosophical logic. There's like all these differences, and there's a ton I've had to like catch up on in the last couple of weeks of class, and this should be like, it seems pretty readable to me. It's not too long. There's like, it seems to cover things that I have a lot of questions about in class, but I'm like maybe a little too embarrassed to ask sometimes, because they're like such basic questions that I'm like, they're gonna be like, you're so dumb. I still ask questions. I talk a lot in class. I'm sure everyone already thinks I'm dumb. Next, Letters to a Young Poet by Rainer Maria Rilke. This I've been meaning to get a physical copy of, because I do have an ebook version of it, but I haven't read it. There are certain books that to me don't make sense to read on my Kindle. Like, I just feel like I'm gonna like want to outline or maybe highlight or maybe mark some pages, and it's just not gonna work on the Kindle, you know? So I found a copy of this that I don't hate, and I'm really excited to read it. I've heard great things. When I checked out at the bookstore, the person checking me out, like the bookseller, was like, oh, this is gonna change your life. You're gonna like revisit this all the time in your life. And I was like, and I also knew that this was like something special, because I have read Rilke. I've read some of his poems before. This is not poems, these are literally letters, I think. Like, someone wrote to him and he answers, and these are the letters, I believe. Lovely. This is also Emma from BookTube. Emma, like from Emma's Books, or Emmy. This is like one of her favorite writers, maybe her favorite writer ever, and she like loves him. And I've been meaning to check out his non-poetry stuff because I'm not a huge fan of the poetry, if I'm honest. But I've heard this is life-changing. I'm ready for my life to be changed. Next, I got Acceptance by Jeff Vandermeer. I actually haven't read the second book in the Southern Reach series yet, so I've only read Annihilation. I've talked about Annihilation a ton on my channel. It's like literally one of my favorite books ever, and for whatever reason, I've never actually read the whole series. And the reason I bought this is, okay, many things happened. One, Jeff Vandermeer announced the fourth book in the series and the final book. It was supposed to be a trilogy, right? Hear me out. It was supposed to be a trilogy. A couple of months ago, maybe, I don't even know how recently, this like edition, these 10th anniversary editions of Annihilation of the Southern Reach trilogy originally were released, and I just am completely obsessed with them. And I'm not the kind of person who really will go out of my way to like buy an extra copy because I love the new covers. Like, I just won't really do that because it's like so much money and space and whatever. So I just don't. But I didn't have the third book in this series anyway. So I went to the bookstore. I went to the bookstore and I wanted to see if they had the fourth book, the final book, Absolution. I really want to read that one. And I also really want to read this one. I don't so much want to read the second book. That's the book I've heard that like most people don't like as much. It takes place outside of Area X, from what I've understood. It's like from the government agency's like perspective. So it might be a more boring installment in the series. But of course, to get to Acceptance, I do need to read the second book. So that's literally my next read. Like I'm so dedicated. Like I want to finish the whole series. I want to know. Like I want to get back into Jeff Vandermeer, specifically the Southern Reach series. I want to be in that world right now. So that is Acceptance. And when I was going to buy Absolution as well, but I was like, girl, you haven't even read the second book. You just bought the third book. Are you really going to buy the third and fourth book? Like, we have to be a little bit disciplined, you know? So I was like, no, I can buy the fourth book when I've actually finished the second and third book. No games, no more games. Next, I got The Razor's Edge by W. Somerset Maugham. I've heard great things. This has been on my TBR for so long, but I actually don't know anything about it except that it is like a creative modern classic where the author kind of creates a character for himself. And I think the story is told through his perspective. Like he's like in and out of the story kind of like every time he meets the main character and maybe like catches up with him about his life. It follows a man who I think was in the military during the First World War, possibly. Maybe. And I think somebody dies for him to save his life or something. And he just comes out of that experience incredibly disillusioned and just not interested in partaking in like all these like meaningless societal constructs. And his fiance is actually like a socialite, maybe like an heiress of the Chicago high society. And so she, like her lifestyle is very much like participating in like going, I don't know, to fancy dinners and things like that. And he's just not interested. He's just not the same person. And he struggles with finding perhaps like a reason to keep going. I'm not entirely sure if what he's struggling with is like finding meaning or if he thinks there's no more meaning or if this just all seems hollow to him after the really intense experiences he had. I don't really know why I bought this now. It's not really what I'm like in the mood for to read right now, but I haven't seen a physical copy of this hardly ever in a bookstore. So when I did see it, I was like, let me snatch this. I try really hard not to buy books online. I haven't bought a book online in at least like a year or two. I really try not to order books online. I want to buy from bookshops. So when I saw this, I was like, let me buy it. This is also kind of why I collect so many books. It's because I don't want to buy books online. So if I see a book that I've been wanting to read in at least like the last year or so that I haven't come across in a bookstore yet, and I do see it in a bookstore, I'm like, this is my chance. I need to snatch it. It just kind of also makes it so that I end up with like a bunch of books on my shelf that I'm not currently looking to read, but are on my TBR more generally. And then they kind of stay there. There's like a big waiting list, like a big queue. Last book I got was Astrid Parker Doesn't Fall by Ashley Herring Blake. I recently read Delilah Green Doesn't Care. I think I told you guys like months ago that I was reading that book. I actually took a huge pause for some reason, like it wasn't my vibe. Maybe the rom-com thing wasn't really my vibe for a while, but I returned to it recently and I finished it and I really liked it. So I just wanted to get the other books in the series because sometimes I'm just looking for a little fun, comforting read. Actually, at the moment, I'm really looking for a fun, comforting read. I'm really looking for something with like Gilmore Girls vibes, maybe like an autumn kind of book. I don't think this has that vibe, but either way, it's super fun to read a rom-com. Hopefully I'll like it, because I don't love this character Astrid from the previous book. I wasn't a huge fan of her. I thought she was quite uptight and annoying, but maybe this book will get me to grow on her. The last book I didn't buy, I was actually gifted this because it's English Book Week in the Netherlands this week, and I think this week. And this was like a free book. So this is a Samantha Shannon novella from her Bone Season series, but I haven't read that. I actually even haven't read The Priory of the Orange Tree. And I was in a panic. I said yes. They asked me if I wanted it for free and didn't tell me what book it was going to be. So I was like, yeah, I want a book for free. And then it ended up being a book that I may never read, in which case I'll just donate it, I guess. I've been unhauling books, so I can do that, but maybe I should consider reading The Bone Season. Have you guys read that book / series? I think the first 2 books are out or something. Maybe more, actually. Oh shit, it seems, never mind. It's like a long series. If y'all are into it, let me know, because then I'll be intrigued, you know? I hope I didn't forget anything.